Hello, my dear viewer. So happy you're here. If it's your first time, don't forget to subscribe and send this video to someone who might enjoy it. It means the world to me. And please tell me, from which city or country are you watching? Jacob was a quiet and introspective man, always preferring a peaceful evening at home to the buzz of social gatherings. Ophelia mirrored that disposition perfectly. Their paths first crossed in a small, inviting cafe nestled near downtown, and from their very first conversation, their connection felt seamless. They quickly became genuine companions, sharing expenses, nurturing mutual dreams, and finding comfort in each other's quiet presence. Their days flowed in an easy, familiar cadence, wrapped in warmth. Together, they threw together meals from whatever ingredients they had on hand, watched television series side by side at a relaxed pace so neither outpaced the other, and delighted in planning a European vacation for the following year. A trip so carefully considered that Jacob had already saved 2 thorough itineraries on his phone. Their life seemed to move forward untouched by the noise of the outside world. Both had stable professional lives. Jacob worked as a freelance designer, appreciating the autonomy and steady clientele, while Ophelia held a dependable position as an administrative analyst at a nearby company. Her income kept their household running smoothly. Though they didn't indulge in luxury, their life together felt comfortable and complete. Weekends brought small joys, meandering walks through parks, strolling through local markets, or simply curling up on the couch, laughing at funny videos they found online. Jacob deeply admired Ophelia, her sharp intellect, steady judgment, quick humor, and unwavering sense of integrity. She was the sort of woman he introduced proudly to anyone. In turn, Ophelia appeared to see Jacob as the ideal partner, a man who treated her as an equal, contributed to household responsibilities, and never forgot birthdays or anniversaries. Their life together felt effortless and reassuring, until one evening when Ophelia came home with a spark in her expression he hadn't seen before. She revealed that she'd been offered a compelling position at a dynamic tech company. Higher pay, excellent benefits, and real potential for growth. The offer had come through Philip, an old university acquaintance. When Jacob casually asked about him, Ophelia responded lightly, as if it was of no consequence. "Philip? He's a good guy from school, very professional." At the time, Jacob sensed nothing unusual. On the contrary, he felt truly happy for her. This was a meaningful chance for her to advance, and Ophelia was practically glowing with enthusiasm. To question the moment felt out of place. The days that followed became a quiet celebration between them. They treated themselves to dinner at a favorite spot, clinked glasses over modest wine back at home, and stayed up late imagining all the opportunities ahead. Within a few weeks, Ophelia had begun her new role. Every morning she seemed invigorated, eager to share stories of her day, meetings, projects, and new challenges. Jacob listened with genuine interest, offering support and encouragement throughout. Whenever she felt drained or overwhelmed, Jacob quietly picked up the slack, preparing meals, tidying the apartment, or fetching takeout so she could relax. He saw her success as something they shared, as if this next chapter belonged to both of them. Their mutual support felt intact, as strong as ever. In those first months, Ophelia appeared happy and fulfilled. Though she began arriving home later than before, citing work commitments, team outings, or errands, Jacob never doubted her. He simply asked if she wanted her dinner kept warm or needed anything when she returned. He even started planning a small surprise to mark 6 months at her new job, a thoughtful tribute to her milestone. He considered creating a photo collage, printing updated plans for their European adventure, or buying her the watch she had admired in a shop window recently. That was how Jacob expressed his affection, through subtle, meaningful gestures. If anyone had asked him during that period about their relationship, he would have answered without hesitation that it was the best he'd ever known. For Jacob, respect formed the bedrock of everything, and Ophelia still seemed as attentive and committed as ever, even amid her busier schedule. They still exchanged private jokes, shared laughter, and traded quiet glances that spoke volumes at the end of long days. Jacob felt fortunate. He believed he had finally learned what it meant to build a life with someone. But he had no idea what was coming. That Saturday felt ordinary in every way. They had decided to make their regular trip to the neighborhood market. As usual, Jacob strolled behind the cart while Ophelia carefully chose produce, already picturing the meals she would prepare. They chatted about what to cook that evening, laughed about a kitchen mishap from last week, and even revisited the idea of finally fixing up the porch. It felt like just another peaceful day, part of the rhythm they had created together. Then, as they wandered through the produce aisle, a cheerful voice called out Ophelia's name from behind. It was Carmen, an old university friend. The two embraced warmly, as if reconnecting after years apart. Jacob stood back politely until Ophelia introduced him. Carmen greeted him kindly, complimented Ophelia's appearance, and remarked how lovely they looked as a couple. Their conversation flowed easily, filled with memories and inside jokes that Jacob tried to follow with polite interest. Everything seemed perfectly normal, until Jacob, hoping to join in, casually asked Carmen whether she liked working at the same company where Ophelia had started several months before. Jacob had always been the quiet type. While others sought out lively gatherings, he found peace in the solitude of his home and the calm of a simple dinner. Ophelia was much the same. Their paths first crossed in a small cafe tucked away downtown, a place that suited their quiet temperaments. From the outset, there was an ease between them, as if they had known each other far longer than they had. Their connection deepened quickly. They divided responsibilities evenly, pursued mutual goals, and shared in the comfort of each other's silence. Their days fell into a pattern marked by affection and calm. They improvised meals with whatever ingredients they had on hand, savored shows together at a pace that kept them in sync, and meticulously envisioned a European getaway for the following year. Jacob had already drafted 2 versions of their itinerary and saved them both on his phone. Time moved gently, as if the world outside couldn't penetrate the cocoon they had formed. Both were firmly grounded in their careers. Jacob, a freelance designer, managed his own schedule and maintained a steady stream of loyal clients, while Ophelia worked full-time as an administrative analyst at a local company. Her dependable income ensured their needs were consistently met. Though they didn't indulge in luxury, their life was steady and content. Their weekends held quiet joys, walks through nearby trails, exploring farmers' markets, or simply sinking into the couch to scroll through funny videos together. Jacob admired Ophelia immensely, her sharp mind, her clarity of thought, her quick humor, and unwavering moral compass. He was proud to have her by his side, never hesitating to introduce her to friends. Ophelia, too, seemed to see Jacob as the kind of partner she had always hoped for: attentive, respectful, collaborative, and always thoughtful about meaningful dates. Their relationship moved with a sense of ease and certainty, until one evening, Ophelia came home carrying a strange brightness in her eyes. She told him she had been offered a promising position at a fast-expanding tech company, complete with a higher salary, excellent benefits, and a clear path for growth. The opportunity had been passed along by an old college peer named Philip. When his name came up, Jacob asked, out of simple curiosity, who he was. Ophelia replied lightly, brushing off the question. "Philip? Just someone I knew back in school. Solid guy, very career-focused." Jacob felt no alarm. On the contrary, he was genuinely thrilled for her. It was a chance to move forward professionally, and Ophelia seemed full of hope and energy. To resist or downplay her enthusiasm felt wrong. The next few days became a quiet celebration. They treated themselves to dinner at one of their favorite spots, shared a toast with a modest bottle of wine back at home, and stayed up late, imagining all the ways this change could enrich their future. Before long, Ophelia started her new role. Each morning, she left with renewed vigor, returning in the evenings full of animated stories about projects, meetings, and the fast pace of her new environment. Jacob always listened with interest, cheering her on without hesitation. When the job took a toll, Jacob picked up the slack. He prepared meals, straightened up the apartment, or ordered food so she could relax. He saw her career move not as hers alone, but as something they were both navigating together. This, to him, was partnership in action. In those initial months, Ophelia seemed energized and fulfilled. She arrived home later than she used to, attributing it to extended meetings, team dinners, or quick stops on the way back. Jacob never doubted her. His only concern was whether she'd like her meal reheated, or if she needed anything when she walked in. Wanting to acknowledge her progress, Jacob began planning a quiet surprise to celebrate her 6 months at the company. He considered assembling a collage of their moments together, printing their updated travel itinerary, or buying the elegant watch she had admired not long ago. Small gestures. That was how he showed his love. If someone had asked Jacob about his relationship then, he would have responded with certainty. It was the best he had ever known. To him, their foundation was built on mutual respect, and Ophelia continued to offer him affection, loyalty, and warmth, even with her growing professional commitments. They still exchanged inside jokes, shared smiles across the room, and found peace in each other's presence after tiring days. Jacob felt grateful. In his heart, he believed they had created something lasting. But he had no way of seeing what was coming. That Saturday began like any other. They'd planned their usual outing to the neighborhood market. Jacob pushed the cart while Ophelia browsed the stalls with practiced ease, selecting produce with intention. They joked about dinner recipes, recalled a recent kitchen mishap with amusement, and even chatted about finally fixing up the back porch. The day unfolded in its usual gentle rhythm. Then, as they made their way past the fruits and vegetables, a voice rang out behind them, bright and enthusiastic, calling Ophelia's name. It was Carmen, a friend from her college days. The two women embraced like old companions reuniting after years apart. Jacob waited a step back, smiling politely, until Ophelia brought him into the conversation. Carmen greeted him with warmth, complimented Ophelia's appearance, and called them an adorable pair. They fell into easy conversation, swapping memories and teasing each other with inside jokes that Jacob tried to keep up with. All seemed normal, until, making small talk, Jacob casually asked Carmen if she enjoyed working at the same company where Ophelia had recently been hired. There was still no definitive evidence of anything beyond what appeared to be an innocent meeting, but every indication hinted that things were far more complicated than Jacob had first assumed. Over the next few days, more photos arrived. Ophelia consistently departed before dawn, drove to the same house, and remained there for about 2 hours. Sometimes the man greeted her at the door. Other times, she walked in unannounced. One image in particular showed them exchanging a kiss, a slow, affectionate goodbye on the doorstep, filled with tenderness. The sight felt like a punch to Jacob's stomach. Oddly, he had prepared himself for this possibility, but seeing it confirmed was a different matter entirely. Whatever faint hope he had clung to was instantly shattered. His mind drifted back, combing through the past several months, searching for the moment when this might have begun. He remembered her excitement about the new job, her glowing descriptions of the office, her admiration for her colleagues, and all the promising opportunities she had claimed were opening up. He thought of the late nights when she returned home exhausted, citing endless meetings, urging him to eat without her. Looking back, it all now seemed like a carefully constructed routine. She would come home around 6, go directly to shower, complain about how draining her day had been, then collapse onto the couch and scroll through her phone. Jacob, ever trusting, would simply smile and ask if she preferred tea or wine. By the end of that week, the private investigator handed over a comprehensive report. Photographs, schedules, maps, all meticulously compiled. Jacob printed out every page, spread them across the coffee table, and sat quietly, taking it all in. Ophelia wasn't home yet. He wrestled with how to handle the inevitable confrontation. Should he lash out, break down, or simply vanish, leaving the file behind for her to discover? But when she eventually walked through the door, offering her usual weary smile and saying how exhausting her day had been, an unexpected stillness washed over him. He calmly asked her to sit. Without raising his voice, he pushed the report toward her. Ophelia opened it slowly. As recognition dawned, her expression shifted, first seeing herself, then the man, then the kiss. She didn't bother denying it. Instead, she sat silently for a moment, took a breath, and began to speak. The man, she explained, was Philip, the same Philip who had helped her land the new job. They had dated back in college, and their recent interactions had started innocently enough as friends. But old emotions resurfaced quickly, and Philip reignited feelings she thought had long since faded. She insisted that this wasn't something she had intended, it had simply unfolded that way. Jacob listened carefully, but with every word she spoke, he felt himself pulling further away, as though the woman before him was no longer the one he thought he knew. It wasn't just the affair, it was the deliberate deceit, the repeated lies to his face, the way she slept beside him every night while living another life. He didn't yell. He simply exhaled, stood up, looked her directly in the eye, and told her she had 2 hours to pack her things and leave the house. Though she tried to argue, he cut her off, his tone resolute. There was nothing left to discuss. Their relationship had ended the moment she chose to betray him. Without further resistance, Ophelia packed a suitcase with a few essentials and walked out the door without even a backward glance. Jacob remained where he was, hands in his pockets, staring at the empty space where her coat used to hang. The silence that followed was heavy, but oddly conclusive, a closure he hadn't anticipated. Not long after she left, Jacob acted swiftly. Though deeply hurt, he knew he couldn't just let things lie. That same evening, he assembled all the investigators' findings, organized them carefully into an email, attached every image along with times and dates, and sent it directly to the HR department at Ophelia and Philip's company. He didn't wait for morning. His decision wasn't fueled by spite, but by a sense of necessity. Ophelia had crossed a line, and now she would have to face the fallout. Elsewhere in the city, Philip welcomed Ophelia warmly. He embraced her like a man reunited with the love of his life. He cooked a simple dinner, opened a bottle of wine, and spoke as though they had finally reached the moment they were meant to share years ago. Ophelia embraced the fantasy. She convinced herself this was a new beginning with someone who truly understood her, and she felt an almost liberating relief, as if she had shed a heavy burden. Whatever guilt she might have felt toward Jacob was soon smothered by a fragile hope. But just 4 days later, Jacob received a call from an acquaintance at their firm. The message was succinct. Both Ophelia and Philip had been terminated. Their conduct had been deemed incompatible with company standards. Jacob simply thanked the caller, ended the conversation, and continued his day as though it were any other Thursday. Yet beneath his composed exterior, he felt a profound sense of vindication, a weight finally lifted. That evening, the phone rang again. This time it was Ophelia, her voice sharp with anger. She demanded to know how he could have exposed her like that, accusing him of ruining her career. Jacob let the silence hang for a few moments before replying calmly, "Yes, it was hard. But harder still was discovering you had a lover, and you did." She began to reply, but quickly fell silent, realizing there was nothing left to say. Then she hung up. Time moved on, and so did the legal process. Their divorce was finalized swiftly and without contest. Jacob returned to his life with quiet determination, moving forward with dignity, and never once looking back. He cut all ties, unfollowed her on every social media app, deleted every shared memory from his phone, and stepped firmly away from that chapter of his life without a backward glance. He was done keeping traces of her around. That relationship had run its course. And with it, the pain finally faded. 2 months later, Ophelia crumbled again. She arrived home unexpectedly after a job interview, hoping to surprise him. and instead stumbled into a scene that shattered her. Through the window, she saw Philip with another woman. They were laughing easily, close in a way that spoke volumes. The intimacy was undeniable. She stood frozen on the doorstep, staring for what felt like forever before mustering the courage to knock. Philip answered without so much as a blink. He looked her in the eye, unapologetic, told her flatly she should have let him know she was coming. No explanations, no remorse. He shrugged it off as nothing serious, said they'd never agreed on exclusivity. Tears streamed down Ophelia's face, and then it all came rushing back. She remembered exactly why she'd broken up with him the first time. The betrayal was a repeat of the past, almost identical. What followed were dark, heavy days. Grief and guilt consumed her. In her desperation, she turned to Jacob. She poured her heart into long messages, confessing how sorry she was, how much she missed him, how blind she had been to what they'd had. She called again and again. He never picked up. Eventually, she sent an email, raw, sincere, pleading. She told him she still loved him, that if he'd be open to talking, she'd do anything to make things right. Several days passed before he replied. Just one line, "I wish you peace, I've already found mine." The word struck her like a splash of ice water. The door she had once slammed shut was now permanently sealed. No career, no relationship, no direction. With nothing left to hold on to, Ophelia went back to her parents' house. The reception was chilly. Her father kept his distance. Her mother wanted explanations. Ophelia had none, only sorrow. She retreated into her old bedroom, shutting the world out. Days blurred together. She spent hours scrolling through old pictures, rereading messages that once lit up her heart, but now felt painfully hollow. She avoided her own reflection, unable to face what stared back at her. A full year passed. Jacob had since moved to a new city and started over. He filled his world with new faces, new habits, and a sense of balance he'd never had before. He joined a nearby gym, and that's where he met Lena, a physiotherapist with her own history of heartbreak. They started chatting, went on runs together, shared pieces of their stories. Gradually, laughter returned to Jacob's life. The past loosened its grip. He no longer carried resentment, only distant memories that no longer had power over him. One peaceful afternoon, walking alongside Lena, a quiet truth settled into his bones. Healing isn't about erasing the ones who hurt you. It's about cherishing who you became because they did.